This is the third month in a row that I hit 7K in total sales in my reselling business. I am really grateful for that. I'm happy with how things are going. We are going to get into all of that. I'll be breaking down the total sales numbers, the final profit, and I'll be going over the 10 best sales I had on eBay, Poshmark, and Depop. But also in today's reseller income report, I want to share 3 sourcing mistakes that I used to make and the changes that I made in order to find better and more items so that I'm maximizing my sourcing trips and coming back with as many items as possible. Let's get started with the total sales numbers. In the month of September, I made a total of $7,882, and that's the total sales numbers that I made across all 3 platforms, what the buyers paid. But for me, the earnings was $5,487, and that would be the amount that the platforms paid out to me after they took out their selling fees, shipping discounts, and all of the other fees involved with selling on their platforms. From there, I have to deduct the cost of goods, which is what I paid for all of the items that sold, and that number is $1,822, which left me in the end with a final take-home profit of $3,665. Now let's look into the inventory. What work went into making those sales? I listed a total of 218 items and I sold a total of 234. That is awesome. It is great when the number of items sold is more than the items you list in a month. It really sucks when it's backwards, when you list a whole bunch but you don't sell as much. So that right there I'm happy with. I do wish that I was listing a lot more, but as long as my sales are staying up and consistent, I guess it's okay for now. Average cost of goods for everything that sold was $7.79. That number stays pretty consistent month after month for me, and the average sold price was $34.11. Overall, the total sales number and the total items sold did go up very slightly compared to last month, but my average sold price and my average final profit did go down this month, and that is because I've been liquidating some of my summer items, as we'll get into later in this video. Now let's go ahead and break down those total sales numbers by platform so that we can see how each platform performed. Starting off with my newest platform, which is Depop. There I sold a total of 31 items and the total sales number was $1,309. On eBay, I sold a total of 68 items, and that was for a total of $2,789. Years ago, my goal was to hit $2,000 in sales in 1 month on eBay, and now I've been maintaining that around $2,000, sometimes a little bit close to $3,000. I don't think I've ever broke $3,000 before. If I have, maybe it was just once, but my goal there on eBay is to try to hit the $3,000 mark in sales consistently month after month. I think that's a good next goal to have for that platform. Moving on to Poshmark, there I sold a total of 135 items and the total sales for me there was $3,884. Poshmark for the most part is always beating the other platforms. I usually have the most sales there. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how platforms are going. I could be doing a little bit more with eBay and with Depop too. If I was a lot more interactive on those platforms, like running sales, and on Depop, messaging buyers, liking other people's items, following, and trying to do more to increase my sales, I could probably boost those 2 platforms a little bit, but I have too much on my hands right now, so that's going to have to wait. We are about to get into the 10 best sales I had on Depop and eBay and the 10 best on Poshmark. But before we get into that, I do want to take the time to tell you about my ebook. Every time I make these reseller income reports, I make it a point to share the keywords that I'm using in my titles, and also when I'm doing my thrift hauls, I share what kind of keywords I would use to sell those items. Some people ask me, where am I getting these keywords from? Well, for one, you can go check out a video I recorded a while back. There I share where you can find keywords online on different platforms and which ones to use. But also I did create a whole ebook called A Reseller's Guide to Trendy Fashion Styles and Keywords. In it, you will find 20 of the most popular fashion styles along with related keywords. I also share some of the most common staples that go along with each fashion style. And at the end of the ebook, there is a printable keyword cheat sheet that you can download so that you can copy and paste these keywords into your titles and descriptions. Below this video, I will leave that ebook linked. Also, I will leave the video I mentioned earlier, so if you want to go watch that and learn more about SEO for your listings across all platforms. Now let's get on to the sales. We're going to start off with the 10 best sales I had on Depop. First up, we have these Naturalizer Equestrian knee-high riding boots. These sold for $32 and they sold in just one day. This is something that I'm going to start looking for more and more of now that we're in fall and as we move closer to winter. I will be picking up these tall boots in my normal bread and butter brands like this one, Naturalizer, Clark's, Born, all of those things. But I will also be picking up tall equestrian boots in other brands that I normally pass up on because these type of boots are more valuable and will sell for more money than other simple sandals and things like that. Number 9 on the list are these Clifts lace-up ankle booties. The two keywords I threw in there at the end was dressy and Victorian. These sold for $34 and they sold in just 6 days. I'd say this brand Clifts, which is made by White Mountain, and so therefore White Mountain as well, is a decently good brand to pick up during the fall and winter. They make good looking boots and normally they're priced decently at the thrift stores, so there's plenty of room for profit there. Number 8, we have these Vans Outdoor Gorp Court hiking shoe boots. They sold for $34.80 and they took a total of 45 days to sell. I remember I was going back and forth with these shoes when I found them at the thrift store. I did comps and they didn't look so great, but because they look so high quality, they look durable, and they were more for like utility purposes, I thought that I could make them work. Usually those kind of shoes are worth more than the regular shoes by this brand Vans. I paid like $10 for them, so I think in the end it was pretty worth it. Next up, we have the Sam Edelman studded black gold boho slides. These sold for $37, which is surprising to me. Someone bought them outright at my full asking price and they took a total of 19 days to sell. Starting right about now, I am starting to send low offers on some of my summer and spring items. I'm accepting lower offers than usual as well. I just don't want to be stuck with too much spring and summer inventory. I will keep the ones that are worth more and be a little bit more firm on my prices with those, but the bread and butter stuff and the style based pickups, those I don't mind letting go for lower than I intended, as long as I don't have to keep them stored here till next year when summer comes back around. Next up, number 6, we have these Naturalizer ankle strap square toe light pink croc block dress heels. These here sold for $38 and they took a total of 54 days to sell. I'm not sure why these heels took so long to sell. Maybe I did start the price way too high, but I thought the style warranted that price. These heels had a lot of cool things going for it. They had the square toe, the ankle strap, a pretty light pink color. They were croc embossed, in great condition, and an overall good brand too. That's why I picked them up. Maybe I should have started the price a little bit lower just to get them moving faster, but still 50 something days is not that bad. Next up, we have these Born lace up combat grunge men's boots. They sold for $40 in 23 days. Combat grunge boots tend to do well in a lot of different kinds of brands, but particularly with Born, they tend to sell for a pretty good amount and in a fast time frame too, in men's and women's. Next, we have the Skechers Vintage Oxford dress shoes. They were Y2K, lace up, and square toe. I also threw in there preppy, work, and derby. They sold for $42 in just 10 days. If you watch my other reseller income reports, then I'm sure you saw this one coming. I don't know why. I've been finding a lot of vintage Skechers shoes around my area lately. The ones I usually sell are the chunky platform kind. These are a little bit different because they're not platform and they have a square toe. They don't have the lug sole like the other ones do. Those other ones do sell for more, but $42 for these is still a very good price. Next up, we have these Dr. Martens purple leather Oxford dress shoes. These sold for $50 in just 11 days. This was my first time selling Doc Martens in a bright color like this. Usually I find the black and the browns. When I was doing my research to price these shoes, it wasn't looking too promising. They weren't selling for that much compared to what I paid for them, but I'm glad in the end it worked out. I must have paid like $18, so it left me with a decent profit in the end. Number 2, on Depop, we have these Harley Davidson Moto boots, lace up biker riding lug sole booties. They sold for $65 in just one day. These sold in just one day, but Lord knows how long I've been having them. My son is the one who organizes my inventory, so once I list my items, I hardly ever go back to them. I hardly ever see them again, but it just so happened that one day my son was organizing inventory, consolidating everything, and so these boots ended up right in the front of one of these boxes. It's actually one right here that's right beside me. So when I look up, I can clearly see these Harley Davidson boots in one of the oldest boot boxes that we have. And I thought to myself, there's no way that these Harley Davidson boots are in one of the oldest boxes, meaning they've been listed for a while and they haven't sold yet. I checked lists perfectly. I checked all of my other platforms and these boots were nowhere to be found. So I quickly took the pictures, got them listed, and that's when they sold the next day. And that right there is putting a little bit more pressure on me to go ahead and do a whole inventory check where I look through all of these boxes and make sure that everything I have is listed on all of my platforms. I need to get to that real soon. But moving on to the number 1 best sale that happened on Depop, and it was these vintage Doc Marten platform shoes. Other keywords I used here was Y2K, grunge, chunky, derby, and Oxfords. These sold for $85 in just 3 days. If vintage Skechers do well, vintage Doc Martens do even better. These I've also been finding quite a few every time I go out sourcing. Even if they have a little bit of damage, like a little bit of rip in the lining, some scuffs and things like that, usually I can still manage to sell them at a very good price and make good money out of them. Now we're going to talk about 5 Depop sales that were on the lower end. Not all of these were bad per se. Some of them were, but they just sold for a lot less. The first on the list are these natural sole lace-up ankle booties. They sold for $20, and the bad part here is that they took a total of 399 days to sell. I pick up a lot of these ankle lace-up type booties. As you saw on the best sales, I had those cliff booties that look kind of similar to these, but a little bit more modern, and that was what the problem probably was here. These natural sole booties were way too outdated. Maybe that's why they took a while to sell. Also, we weren't in the season for them. It took quite a few relists for these to finally move, but I'm glad they're out the door. Next up, we have these Born of Concept Fisherman sandals. They sold for $21 and they took 42 days to sell. I was on the lookout for this style of sandals. The platform fisherman sandals were doing good for me in the spring and summer, but now that that season is over, I'm accepting any reasonable offers that come my way for those because I'd rather just get them moving, make a little bit of money off of them. Who knows if they'll still be trendy next season. Number 3, we have these Crocs platform clog shoes. I threw in there retro, buckle, and mules as well as keywords. They sold for $22 and they took a total of 91 days to sell. These were very old school Crocs. I paid about $4 $4 for them. They were still in pretty good condition and they performed just like I expected they would. Number 2 on the list, we have these slouchy Western ankle booties, low block heel, pull-on cowgirl boots. They sold for $24 and took a total of 3 days to sell. This pickup was purely style based. I paid like $4 or $5 for them with the intention to sell them for about this much, about $24. So if you find Western style boots that are by a cheap brand but you can get them for cheap, I'd say give them a shot, because with the right keywords they can sell. And here's where I want to talk about the first sourcing mistake I used to make, and that is relying on name brands. Knowing what brands are good to pick up is only half of what being a good sourcer is. The other part of it is knowing the styles, the colors, the patterns, the trends that are doing well at the moment. When you get good at knowing how to source based on style, you expand your possibilities when you go out sourcing. You're not going to have to rely on knowing and finding those good brands. Therefore, when you're good at sourcing based on style, you're going to be able to make your trips worth it, because you'll be able to find a lot more items, and cheaper items too, probably, because thrift stores don't price their items based on style. They price them based on brand. With all of that said, let's move on to the number 1 low sale that I wanted to talk about that happened on Depop, and it was these Tahari pointed toe kitten heel pumps, yellow suede minimalist dress shoes. These sold for $24 and they sold in 4 days. This right here is another example of a style-based pickup. Tahari is a good brand, but it must be paired with a good style in order for it to sell for a good amount and at a decent time frame as well. Pointed toe kitten heel pumps is a very good style that I look out for in all sorts of brands. Doesn't matter if they're well known or not, as long as they appear high quality. I picked them up. I thought these were even better because they were Tahari and they were that beautiful color, which made me confident that they would do well, and in the end they did. I didn't pay that much for them, so it left me with a decent profit. All right, let's keep it moving. We're going to talk about the 10 best sales I had on eBay, starting off with these Echo slip-on loafer shoes. They were men's shoes, and I threw in there the keywords leather, business, casual, and comfort. They sold for $35 and they took a total of 48 days to sell. Echo is kind of a tricky brand to source because it's such an old brand. There's so many outdated styles out there, and it's kind of hard, at least for me, to know which ones are more modern and which ones are not. It's not that obvious as other brands are, but sometimes it is. Next, we have these towels, casual comfort streetwear high top shoe boots. They sold for $32 and they took a total of 97 days to sell. I don't know how to feel about towels lately. My past like 5 sales have sold in over 100 days or more, sometimes a lot more. That didn't used to be the case, but then on the other hand, I don't pay that much for towels. Usually I'll pay like $5, so $5 into about 25 final profit isn't that bad in the end. I'm probably just going to try to be a lot more selective with this brand and keep an eye on how it's performing by checking out my spreadsheets. Next, we have these Ariat lace-up Western riding paddock boots. They sold for $40 in just 5 days. Ariat is a brand that I share a lot in these videos and in my thrift hauls, but these are a little bit different. They're not the usual pull-on cowgirl mid-calf type boots. Recently I learned that these kind of boots are called paddock or poddock. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that word, but I've been adding that keyword along with the other keyword that's something like jawed purr or something like that. Those 2 keywords I've been adding to these kind of boots, and I think it's helping them move a little bit faster. Next, we have these Antonio Milani Western boots. They were tooled leather. They sold for $40 and they took 129 days to sell. Antonio Milani is by no means a Bolo brand. I skip it all of the time, every time I go to the thrift store, but every once in a while I'll find a shoe that fits the bill. that is a great style, that has great features, in great condition, and at a cheap price. And that was the case with these. The days on these boots are high, but that is going to be the case because we weren't in boot season and now we are. And I think this is the perfect time to talk about sourcing mistake number 2 I used to make, and that was skipping all out of season items. The first few years that I started reselling, I would focus entirely on sourcing in-season items. As soon as we switched from, say, winter to summer, I would stop going to the boot section altogether. I wouldn't even make my way down those aisles. And I would do that because I wanted to be smart with the money I was investing into the inventory. Since winter was almost over, why pick up those items if they're going to stop selling and I'm just going to have them sitting around in my home? I'd rather invest my money in things that are going to sell a lot faster. And all of that is true, but not entirely. Out of season items do sell at a lot slower pace than in season items, but they don't stop selling entirely. Also, normally thrift stores will mark down out of season items, so that is your chance to get them at a really good price. Now I pick up all items all year round, but I do prioritize in season items. Those are the aisles I'm going to be visiting first. And I'm a lot more picky with out of season items. I want to focus on the classics, things that aren't going to go out of style, things that are in great condition and high quality. If you're barely starting with reselling, I do recommend that you do stick to in-season items only, just so that you can sell your items a lot faster and start to grow your business. But once you have a steady flow of income coming in, it is a smart idea to pick up items year-round so that you can get them cheaper and you'll be stocked up on them next time that season comes back around. Just make sure, as I mentioned, that you focus on the classics, things that aren't going to go out of style, and that you're picking up things that are in great condition and high quality so that they're worth it. Alright, moving back to the sales, we were on number 6 on eBay, and the sale was these Birkenstock slip-on sneakers. These here sold for $55 and they took 2 days to sell. I found 2 of this exact same pair at the thrift store this day, just in different colors. They were the same size and I paid about $18 for each one. I was really thinking about it though because I don't have that much experience selling Birkenstock sneakers. I've been finding a few lately though, so I'm experimenting with them. I'll have to get back to you and let you know what I think about them, but for now these right here did really good. Next up we have this Michael Kors satchel crossbody gold metallic mirror logo monogram handbag. This sold for $58 and it took a total of 18 days to sell. When I first stopped selling clothing, my goal was to focus on only selling purses and shoes. Eventually I did away with purses as well, just because they take a lot longer to photograph and list, and I wanted to focus on just one thing. This purse though was by the register at this thrift store where I found it. From past experience, I knew that these type of Michael Kors purses that are shiny like this do really well, and apparently they still do. This sold at a good profit and in a decent time frame too. Next up we have these Kate Spade metallic glitter flower gold platform slip-on shoes. They sold for $52 and they took a total of 87 days to sell. I have a love-hate relationship with Kate Spade shoes. They do usually sell for high prices, but the amount of days they're getting longer and longer as time passes. These sold in under 90 days, so it's still not that bad, but I do have some Kate Spade sales that took well over 100 days to sell. So as of now, I'm trying to pick up the ones that are really cheap at the thrift store, because sometimes the thrift stores like to mark this brand up. So if I have to pay like $15, $20, $25 for these shoes and they're gonna take way too long to sell, I rather not. But if I can find them cheap, I don't mind them taking well over 100 days to sell. Next up, we have another Birkenstock sale. These here were the Buckley Shearling Mule Black Suede Moccasin Clog shoes. They sold for $68 and took 1 day to sell. Unlike the sneakers, these Birkenstocks right here, I had no doubt they would do well because it is a more classic style that you would expect from this brand. I paid like $20 for them and I did want more out of them. I started the listing at about $89. Someone on Poshmark was trying to offer me $50. I was trying to get her to go up to at least $60, and in the middle of that back and forth, someone came and offered me $68 on eBay, and I thought even better. Number 2, we have these C by Chloe block heel platform brown leather Y2K chunky booties. They sold for $60 and took a total of 161 days to sell. Chloe is a designer brand and C by Chloe is like their lower end brand, but still very expensive, and I guess this thrift store did not know about it because I must have paid something like $8 for them. So in the end, this was a very good profit. Now we get to the number 1 best sell from eBay. It was these Tory Burch low block heel black leather logo minimalist dressy shoes. They sold for $65.50. Someone used a coupon and got them at that very low price. They sold in 14 days. This sale looks good on paper, but it really wasn't all that great for me. I paid too much for these shoes. I paid something like $37 or $38 for them. So after all of the fees and everything, my final profit must have been around $17. In 2 weeks, it's not that bad, but usually Tory Burch shoes are a lot more profitable than that. I think I could have priced these shoes a little bit higher, but with that high cost of goods, the $38, I was really limited on the amount of profit I could make off of these. Now let's get into 5 sales that sold for low amounts on eBay. First up, we have these Torrid flat boho minimalist casual d'Orsay slip-on open-toe sandals. They sold for $15 and they took a total of 27 days to sell. This sale and probably a lot of the other lower sales that you're going to see in the coming months is going to be just me trying to liquidate some of these sandals that I have left over from the spring and summer. Next up, we have this Myra bag crossbody floral boho western small purse. This one sold for $15 and it took a total of 34 days to sell. I got this bag along with the Michael Kors bag. It was also right by the front register. I remember selling this brand for a consignment client a while back and it did okay. This one here was priced at $3. It was new with tags, so I thought this bag would perform even better than the last one. In the end, it didn't. Someone sent me this $15 offer and I accepted it just to get it moving ASAP. Number 3, we have this soft surroundings embroidered purple peasant boho floral flowy blouse. It sold for $15 as well and took a total of 81 days to sell. I was almost done getting rid of all the clothing I had left over from when I was a clothing reseller, and then I went on and bought a clothing lot from my cousin. I did need inventory at the time, so I don't regret it entirely. Some of that stuff did leave a decent profit, but I can't wait to get rid of all the clothing that I have. It must be like 25 pieces now. Next up, we have these universal thread minimalist ballerina shoes. They sold for $18.39 and they took a total of 84 days to sell. I talked about this in the last income reseller report about cheap brands that I like to buy from Target, Walmart, and other mall brands. If I can find them real cheap, preferably at like $4 and below, and if the items look like new, I don't mind picking them up because I know what keywords to use to get them found and sold. And then the last low sale I want to talk about wasn't a good one. It was these Jambu pointed toe comfort loafer shoes. They sold for $19 and they took a total of 313 days to sell. That right there is a lot of days. This is not a type of shoe I will be picking up again by Jambu. Jambu in general, I'm slowing down a lot on. It has to be something real special in order for me to pick it up because it's not performing as well as it used to. Moving on to the 10 best sales that I had on Poshmark. First up on the list, we have these And Other Stories Chelsea black leather grunge pull-on platform booties. They sold for $38 and they took a total of 41 days to sell. I instantly recognized this brand as an Anthropologie brand when I saw these boots. In general, Anthropologie shoes do really well, especially when they're marked just Anthropologie and not no other brand that they carry. And aside from that, combat boots is a style that I sell all the time. Sometimes I'll pick them up regardless of brand, even if it's a cheap unknown brand. So that's why I had no doubt that I could make these work. It was a great sale. Next, we have these Fly London ankle wedge booties. They sold for $39 and they took just 1 day to sell. Fly London is one of my favorite brands to find at the moment because thrift stores don't price it up that high and you can sell them for really good money online. These even had a little bit of scuffs on the front toe box. I thought that was going to affect how well they did, but it didn't in the end because they took just 1 day to sell. Number 8, we have the Sam Edelman studded pointed moto goth spike buckle ankle booties. As you can see, a lot of things going on with these boots. They sold for $40 and took just 15 days to sell. These I also had no doubt I could make them work because Sam Edelman is a well-known brand and I knew that there was so many keywords that I could use with them since they had all of those things going on. And also from past experience, I know that Sam Edelman spike studded boots will usually command more money than their normal boots do. Next up, we have these Jeffrey Campbell Western ankle booties. They sold for $43 and took 75 days to sell. Like with Kate Spade, I am really developing a love-hate relationship with Jeffrey Campbell. The selling prices are really good, like with Kate Spade, but the days are getting longer and longer. So I'm trying to be a little bit more picky with it and picking it up only if I can find it really cheap. But I will pay up if I find something very unique because Jeffrey Campbell is known for their quirky, wacky shoes. Next up, we have the Steve Madden pointed toe thigh-high boots. These sold for $45 and they took a total of 32 days to sell. Most Steve Madden shoes that I buy to resell are going to perform more on the average side, which means that they will go on to sell for about $24, maybe about $28 or so. But every once in a while, I will find a piece that performs above average. Normally, those are the shoes that are worn by influencers, shoes that end up becoming what's known as blogger favorites. These boots right here striked me as that kind of shoe, and that's why I picked them up. Next, we have these Bionica Comfort Platform Sandals. These here sold surprisingly for $50 and they took 52 days to sell. I'm pretty sure that I skipped this Bionica brand in the past before at the thrift store. I did not know that this brand performed this well. When I found these sandals, I picked them up just because they look so cool to me. I saw that they looked high quality. They were super cushiony and comfortable. They were trendy looking. I thought they were going to perform more on the average side, but these sandals exceeded my expectations, and now Bionica is a brand that I'm adding to my Bolo list. And I guess right here we'll go ahead and talk about the third sourcing mistake I used to make, which is storing out of season items. In the beginning, when I did start sourcing for all items, all seasons, I thought it'd be best to store the items that were out of season and not not post them until the season came back around. I would only post them if I absolutely had to. I didn't have any other inventory and I hadn't posted items for days. When I would go on to post them, a few of those items would sell. Sandals would sell right in the middle of winter. So that's when I decided to stop storing items and I just list my inventory as it comes in, because although those items may not sell quickly, they may still sell. And if I'm going to have them stored in my home anyway, why not have them listed and stored and potentially have them sell after all? Like with sourcing, I do prioritize in-season items when I'm listing. I put those up first on all my platforms, but I do list all my items all year long. I thought I could have breakfast after recording this video, but apparently not, because my stomach kept growling. So if you hear weird noises, that's what that was. I had to stop and go have a snack before finishing this video. But we were on number 4 best sale for Poshmark, and it was these Free People cedar clogs, pink leather platform, chunky block heel shoes. They sold for $57 and they took a total of 2 days to sell. This is a brand that I'm not tired of. It's still performing really well for the most part. There are a few shoes that I have in my inventory that I've been sitting around for a while now, but for the most part, Free People shoes are high performers. They sell for high dollars pretty quickly. Number 3 on the list, we have the Sorel ankle wedge casual outdoor boots. They sold for $57 and they took a total of 142 days to sell. This is a brand that I'm also not tired of. Sorel is still performing really good for me. I pick it up all year, no matter the season. I'll pick up their boots even though I know they're going to sit around until fall and winter, because I know once those seasons do roll around, they're going to start selling very quickly. And usually thrift stores will price down Sorel boots during the summer, so I'm able to get them at really good prices and end up with real good profits once they do sell. Number 2, we have these Justin cross embroidered western boots. They sold for $60 and they took 65 days to sell. Justin Boots is my least favorite western boot brand. I normally just find the plain colors like the blacks and the browns, and they're normally priced way too high because thrift stores think way too highly of them. They think they're worth a lot when they're really not, at least on the online platforms. So when I do find something extra unique like these boots right here, I'll snatch them up real quick because I know that those are worth more, and so there is room for profit with those for me. But when they're just plain, I will skip them. Then we get to the number 1 and surprisingly best sell on Poshmark, which was these Converse hidden wedge purple canvas high top platform sneakers. They sold for $76 and they took a total of 24 days to sell. I never imagined that I would have a Converse sell in the high price category on Poshmark, especially not ones that look like these. Maybe they're like knee length ones or super chunky ones, but these to me appeared a little bit more simple. I found them in the kids section and I did pay $10 for them, which is a little bit higher than I normally pay, but I thought because they had the wedge and they were purple, I could sell them for like about $30. But once I started doing research to price these shoes, because I'd never sold wedge Converse, I saw that people were pricing them up really high. Also, I didn't see many purple ones out there. There weren't that many listed. So all of that I took into account when I priced these shoes, and they ended up doing really good. They sold really high and they didn't take that long to sell. So this right here is my cue and your cue to be on the lookout for wedge Converse shoes. Now we get to the 5 low price sales that happened on Poshmark. Some of these are good in the end. The profit isn't as high as some of the best sales, but it's decent. Some of them though, I would never pick up again. Let's start off with these Life Stride pointed toe minimalist kitten heel dress shoes. They sold for $14 and took a total of 60 days to sell. There we go again with that style of pumps, the pointed toe with the kitten heel. No matter the brand, if they're in good condition, I usually pick those up. Next up, we have these Rialto Comfort Cork Wedge pumps. These sold for $15 and took 77 days to sell. This is my first time trying out this Rialto brand. I saw it at the thrift store a lot, but never gave them a shot. These did fit that aesthetic that I like buying, the minimalist office shoes for women. So that's why I decided to give them a try. I'm not sure if I'll still continue picking them up because the days is pretty high, but depending on the price, I may. Next up, we have these pointed toe stiletto heel pumps. I didn't even put the brand name in the title for these because sometimes I leave it out just to leave room for more keywords. They were by Jessica Simpson though. They sold for $15 and took a total of 21 days to sell. And again, same deal. This is a cheap brand that I buy to sell for cheap. Although Jessica Simpson could surprise you sometimes and perform a little bit more average, more like $20 or $28. It just depends on the style. But for the most part, simple Jessica Simpson shoes like this are going to sell closer to like $15, maybe $18. The next sale is these dream pairs, again with the kitten heel and the pumps. These were royal blue, and other keywords I used was low heel, dressy, and office shoes. They sold again for $15 and took a total of 14 days to sell. Dream Pairs is a cheap brand that I pick up a lot of almost every time I go to the thrift store. Moving on to the next low sale. This one here was not a good one. It was these Guess French stiletto high heels. They sold for $20 and they took 301 days to sell. I'm not sure where I mentioned this, if it was on a reseller income report or a thrift haul, but French stuff is not doing good at all for me anymore. French used to be a cool feature to look out for on shoes, sandals, boots, and things like that. But nowadays, I'm noticing that things that have fringe are taking longer and longer to sell. So from what I can see, that's not a trendy thing anymore. Maybe years down the line it will come back around. In the comments down below, let me know, how was your reselling business in the month of September? Are you starting to see your sales go up for Q4? Here off to the side, I will leave two videos for you. One will be a playlist actually of other reseller income reports I've made. If you want to check out more good sales and learn more brands and sourcing tips, go ahead and check out that playlist. And I will also leave another video here that shares more things I stopped doing in my reselling business, how I changed them, and how they improved my sales. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.